Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. You're free to like or dislike the video, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like. It's a way of helping me grow the channel. And it's also a way of educating people on some of the things that happens when people deconvert, but also some of the dangers and damages of religion and belief in God. So this is week 24, I believe, and we're looking at comments. It's hard to really wrap my head around the fact that somewhere about mid-July, near the end of July, I'm going to have been on this channel for almost half a year. And when I first started out, I really didn't know what I was doing other than I could hit record on my camera and record some stuff. And it pretty much has stayed that way. I've since upgraded some software. I'm still trying to learn stuff. And I've always found it difficult to learn new computer programs. I have a much easier time with computer programs I'm familiar with that maybe have upgrades or version changes. I can live with that. It's new stuff that I now have discovered I have a real problem with, so I kind of work with it and try to make it better. But these Friday videos are usually about addressing comments. I do have a couple of them, and they're very good comments, and I have to thank the Free Bird of Reason for both of them. So I do want to thank him or her. I don't know. I guess. But one of the comments came about a day ago about the tall tale of the visit of the Magi. And, we it involved the three wise men. Yeah, that's what it is. I was trying to remember it. The three wise men concept, he says, yeah, I never realized that it only mentions three gifts. And so therefore, what happened is you had pageant plays very early in Christianity, reenacting different events in Jesus' life. Because you're still dealing with a fairly illiterate population. Drama and Christianity go back together quite a ways, I think. I think it's been decried at different times, but it's also been utilized to recreate the stories of Jesus and reenact them. And so you have three gifts, so you naturally put that together with three wise men. There's a whole bunch of legends about the three wise men, but the Bible never mentions them. And so I just want to reiterate, when you look at the story, I think what the writer is telling, what the writer known as Luke is telling us, he's trying to relate to us the idea of a caravan of wise men from the east coming to see the Christ child and then going back home a different way because of a dream. I don't know. For a long time, I've always gotten, frustrated. It kind of goes to another issue I have with Christians and other people who claim to know the Bible at times. They miss details, and I guess I'm just one of those guys that catches details in a text. I used to have people argue with me all the time, and I'd pull out the Bible, and I would it says this, this, and this. These are very interesting details that we have to take into consideration. And it's a great way to understand that a lot of people cherry pick. I mean, you mentioned cherry pick and Freebird, and yep. Oh, yeah. You take any of the hard passages of Scripture where God is committing genocide, he's condoning rape, he's condoning murder, where he's a real asshole. If you take the sections in the New Testament where the best idea God can come up with is to have himself sacrifice himself to appease his own wrath and do it in one of the most brutal manners possible, but somehow this is a good thing. Looking at the obvious and looking at it a different way is not encouraged in a religious mindset. The religious mindset is just really different. It really is different kinds of glasses. I was recently watching, I think Aaron Ra made a guest appearance on Apologia, and they were talking about Ken Ham, and they brought up the Ken Ham Nye debate again. And it's that great moment in that debate where they're asked what would change your mind, and Nye gets out there and says, give me one bit of evidence, give me one peer-reviewed study, give me something that conforms to science and inquiry, and I would change my opinion. When Ken Ham is asked that same question, he says, I will never give up the Bible, no matter what facts, reason, anything else says. The Bible is my foundation, and I will not give it up. And that's kind of indicative of people that are heavily religious. One of the things that I've come across just this week, I ran into somebody who, during my tenure as a minister, this person was very hyperly religious. And I know that they know what happened a couple of years ago when I left my church, but they also don't seem to either remember it or don't care, because they asked me how I was doing, and I told them fine. And they said, well, you're supposed to say, I'm upright, blessed, and moving forward. But I don't give a shit about that stuff anymore. So trying to be polite in those situations becomes very different. But this person, I would now consider them, at least 3 sandwiches short of a picnic and at least about 12 bricks short of a load. They're just Looney Tunes, okay? When you look at, this is a person that was a nurse, engaged in nursing, and then traded that for what I would call homeopathic medicine and all this other bullshit. And it's all because of their faith that they did that, okay? And they want to believe in Jesus, and they want to believe in all this other stuff. And then they want to lead me in, what they've been trained by rote to do. And it does lead us to a question, what kind of morality can a person have when, if you believe that God has told you to do something, this is a very Pentecostal, charismatic type believer, if you believe that God has told you to do something, then you can go do it, and you can justify any negative consequences because all of a sudden that's okay. That's all right. And because God told you to do it. So it doesn't matter if there's negative consequences. Back on Monday, I did a video called Therapy and Deconversion, where I advocated for therapy. Freebird talks about thinking about your father. Of course, his Father's Day is very recent, and I thought about my dad a lot of times, and my dad was a very devout believer. I think, though, that if he could come back from the dead, he would probably tell us there's nothing there, and we probably should live life to the fullest. I don't know. I don't think if I sat down with my father and talked to him about it, that he'd be disappointed in my decision if, he knew what I believe, what I think and know. I'm fairly sure that there is no life after death. Can't prove that until you do it. So you just kind of, okay, waiting. If somehow we could resuscitate him and he would come back and say, yeah, there's nothing. But I think even back when he was still alive, if I had that conversation with him, I would say, Dad, there's just, this is no different than any of the other fairy tales I've ever read. And I think I could have had a very rational conversation with my father. My father was a very emotional person to an extent. He was a very compassionate person, but part of deconversion, wrapping my head around death, and is not so much concerned about my own. I take a very Mark Twain view of my own death. I wasn't overly upset that I didn't exist before I existed, and I won't be around to be upset that I don't exist anymore. And, it's the people that, I'm just trying to make the best of this existence while I still have it, and honoring it as the only existence that I will get. And that's a far different way to live. And this is why therapy is so important, because you find yourself thinking of how to deal with your life, and you go, oh, I can put that off because, in the end it doesn't really matter because I'll be living with Jesus or whatever. I can't put things off as much as I used to. In fact, I'm kind of scared in some ways to do so because I don't know, maybe scared isn't a good word. I just want the best for myself while at the same time helping as many people around me as I can. I still have, I guess, a pastor's mentality about helping people, but I don't need the religion to do that. And I don't need to pretend certain things don't exist to do that. I think many of my coworkers know that I was a former minister, but only a few of them, I think, are aware that I don't believe anymore. Every once in a while, I get the conversation like I still, believe in life after death or whatever. And I'm very respectful, especially if it's like, well, the only reason I go forward is I believe that I'm going to see my daughter again, or I'm going to see my mother, or I'm going to see my father. And I'm not going to go, this is where the compassionate part comes in compassionate anti-theism. I'm not going to sit there and just say, you're an idiot for believing that. I'm not going to do that. I understand the compassionate reasons why people believe, and it's scary. I get it. I was there for years. I didn't want to give up on the notion that I'd see my dad again. And I think that drove me quite a bit for a long time, as well as having really good Sunday school teachers that indoctrinated me very gently, very kindly, lovingly. When I had hard times, they put their arms around me and helped me through them. This is what makes this hard. Okay, that's why I'm a compassionate anti-theist, because I have great deals of empathy for people struggling with their faith. I get it. I get it's tough. And I don't know, coming out of that, I don't know. It's hard. And sometimes it's hard to come out as an atheist. I just, I have a very public personality, and so I kind of, deal with it. On the one hand, as an anti-theist, I understand the damage that religion and faith and theology and doctrine can do to relationships, to families, to your pocketbook, to society. On the other hand, I also know why people stick with it. Usually are not bad reasons. People don't stick with their faith because of bad reasons. They don't have bad reasons for sticking for the faith. They usually have very good reasons, very compassionate reasons, very heartfelt, heartstring reasons. And so that's where the compassionate comes in. I have to really watch myself. I think the anti-theist comes out more when people get in my face about it, or they ask me direct questions and I know that they're struggling with the faith and they openly tell me, and then I get very blunt about why I don't believe. When it's more of a person kind of explaining to me they believe in life after death because they want to see their father or their daughter again, boy, do I get that. I get that shit. And I'm not going to upset the apple cart at that point. There will be a better time to discuss that than at that moment. Tiger Tice a day ago was looking at my Tall Tale of Jesus, and I haven't had a chance to peruse all my comments, so give me a minute. Tiger Tice says, I'd like to share something that's been going on for 4 years. I've been preaching 5 books. I believe our Father in Heaven has led me to preach through dreams. It all started about 4 years ago. Found out Paul was a false apostle, and at that time I was trying to discover the truths in the Bible and Christianity. So I was talking about the books of Paul, and I had a dream and heard 5 books. It's a couple more books affiliated with Paul, Mark, and Luke, and I heard the books of Thomas and Philip in another dream. At this point, I figured that God's either talking to me or it's very interesting. Started to take out the book of Revelation. It did mention our Savior. This is the morning star, which Isaiah says is Lucifer or the morning star. I almost became an atheist because I was searching, get these 5 books, and I found out there was a lot of contradictions in the Bible. I made a Facebook called Tiger Tice, and it's made me because of the 5 books. I got Matthew, John first, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, which I found out later those Gospels are disciples. and Christian, also known as Gnostic tech. So 4 years ago, I was just your average Christian. Now I'm basically a Gnostic Christian. Found out recently that I had been tricked. The church was made in killing off and conquering the Gnostics, destroying the Gnostic texts, which mention the Bible, bridegroom, bridal trainer, the light within. I often found out that Mary Magdalene was most beloved disciple and the apostle of the apostles. Now I know for you to hear this, you probably think I'm possessed, lying or playing around, but I can assure you I'm not. I don't ask for nothing on my Facebook for this free book mentioned blah, blah, blah. I was cured of fibromyalgia, and it teaches, and it gives me a list of prophecies, and there's a lot of, this is one of those comments that's very long, and it's marked as spam, which, okay, I'm going to agree with something here, and then I'm going to come after you a little bit. Is it Tyser or no? It's Tyser. Tice. I'm sorry. I want to be respectful of people's names. It doesn't really matter to me what brand of Christianity you are. If you want to look at Christianity, you will see that the reason, for instance, the Roman Catholic Church had such power for so long is they used their power to wipe out all ideological opposition. So as a Gnostic, and I can respect that you're a Christian Gnostic, at the same time, I'm going to get after you for that in a bit. I can respect the persecution element of the Gnostic Christians. You're right. The established church went after the Gnostics hardcore. They went after them tough. But I'm also going to tell you this. You've just demonstrated one of the reasons why none of it can really be true. The reason none of it can be true, and quoting Bible verses and making Bible, I know the Bible, dog. Okay, I know the Gnostic Gospels. I know all of it. I'm going to tell you right now, it's all fantasy land. It's all a bunch of people that lived 2,000 years ago that were chanting boogie woogie, high on something or whatever, and they wrote a lot of things. The problem with all the Gnostic Gospels is they're also pseudepigraphal, which means we don't know their authorship either. A lot of them are named, and even if they are named, there's no evidence that any of them are actually written by who they say they're written by. And because the Gnostics are a little bit, how shall you say it, a little bit mystical, there's a good polite word, I suppose, they go anywhere. They believe all kinds of things that can't be proven, looked at. Shit, man, a lot of their stuff is just straight, in my opinion, made up. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but you give me a comment like that, and I'm going to look at you and say, what's the difference between being a Gnostic Christian and a Christian? You're basically believing in stuff you can't prove. And to me as an atheist, faith is a dishonesty. It is not a virtue. It is actually the opposite of a virtue. Faith is believing in something you have no evidence for. Okay, truth to me, and I take this from Paul G. I think he has a great definition of truth. Truth is that which conforms to reality and has predictive power. If something is true, I can repeat it. I can do it over and over again, and it proves itself to be true all the time. The problem with, dude, I was a Pentecostal. I saw all kinds of crap. I saw people reportedly healed. You say you're healed of fibromyalgia. What evidence do you have of that? Do you have a doctor saying you had fibromyalgia and we didn't do any treatment on you, and now you don't have fibromyalgia, so it must be the prayer? A lot of times what I saw, and maybe you're not guilty of this, but you were happy to accept the diagnosis of the doctor for the purpose of saying I had a disease. But then when he says, oh, you still have this disease. No, I got prayed for and I was healed. You have to provide evidence of healing. And the strange thing about healings, and boy, I'm going to tell you, the problem with mystical Christianity is this. You can do anything with it. You are literally creating a God in your own image, and you want that God to be weird and woohoo. And I'm coming after you, Tyser, because no, you haven't proven anything that you're any different than any other proof texter that's ever been. The only difference between a Gnostic Christian and a Christian is a Gnostic Christian chooses different books of Scripture to hold dear, and they do it You're the one who made that choice. God didn't lead you to it. You decided that these books aren't going to be the ones that you look at for your authority anymore. You're going to look at these. That's all you did. And it was your choice, not God, not anybody else. And then you reframe whatever you believe around this new, but in the end, you were the one being God, picking your authority scriptures. That's it. You need to understand that, because your old beliefs in Christianity and your new beliefs in Gnostic Christianity at the foundation are no different. They're exactly the same. You have chosen to believe in something because you want to believe it. Period. End of discussion. I'm sorry. I have done that gambit. I started out as a very fundamentalist Christian. Okay, I went to Bible college. I became an Arminian. But Arminianism was simply a way of looking at the Calvinists and going, yeah, you guys are freaking nuts. Okay, and I would move from Arminianism to open theism. I eventually looked at theology in the stance of progressivism to the point where I'm like, well, shit, there's no reason to believe in any of the scriptures or so-called scriptures, whether they're pseudepigraphal, whether they're Gnostic, whether they're the established canon by the Catholic Church, whether they're established Protestant canon. It doesn't matter, because you have made the decision yourself to choose whatever it is you want to be your authority, and then you engage it. There is a great deal of truth that the reason why God understands you so much is because you're the one who made up your God in your head, and nobody understands you better than you. You're talking to yourself. I'm going to be blunt. It's a great revelation when you were praying someday and you realize suddenly, holy shit, the reason why God seems to understand me so much is it's me. I'm talking to myself. And this is a truth that nobody wants to deal with. Nobody wants to admit this if you're religious. That at the end of the day, your religion is what you choose to have as your religion, period. And, it doesn't make a difference. In religion, there is no truth. There's nothing that conforms to reality and has predictive power in Christianity, or Gnostic Christianity, or Buddhism, or Islam, or Hinduism, or Judaism. It doesn't matter. Give me an ism, and I will show you where at points it doesn't conform to reality. Well, we got all this spirit. Well, you can't prove that any of that spiritual reality exists. So it is no different than me picking up the Lord of the Rings and talking about hobbits and wizards. It isn't. And when you come to that realization that as you're reading the Bible and the stories about David, or whatever story you choose to accept, is no different than picking up Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, or C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, or Jim Butcher's, Harry Dresden files, when you begin to realize that there's no difference between any holy books and those works, more modern works of fiction, you will truly be free and enlightened. I can't stress this enough. I still have to work through a lot of that. That's the reason why I talked about decompression and therapy on Monday. But there's still a lot of things I have to work through, but I cannot stress the freedom that you have from suddenly being rational and realizing that it is very childish, it is very wishful thinking, it is very dishonest to have faith. Sorry, I don't believe faith is a virtue. I just don't. I don't believe obedience is a virtue either. Obedience is really a neutral thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. All it means is somebody told you what to do and you did it or you didn't do it. But religion makes obedience and faith virtues, and neither one of them are virtues. One is you believing in something you can't prove, and the other one you're just doing what some authority figure told you, whether that's right or wrong. Religion hinges on those two things, and that is why I'm an anti-theist, because that can be taken to places that are dangerous and deadly, and I've seen it far too many times to know it's not true. I'm going to reach out to you, Tyser, with some compassion and say, yeah, I get it. I would understand why you don't want to give up your faith, because it gives you some sort of foundation and whatever. You need to realize that your real foundation is your own conception of what you think authority is and what you think God is. The God that you worship is your own creation, period. Now, I don't want to sound too harsh. I'm just trying to lay out what I think. It's not the most logical, coherent argument I've ever made, but it's a passionate one, because I care about people that get lost in this bullshit. Because you start wrapping your head around this shit and you go batshit crazy. And you do things that are just harmful to yourself and to your relationships with others, the only real thing that you have in your life, simply because, quote unquote, God told you so. God didn't tell you to do that. You told yourself to do that, made it from God so nobody can argue with you, and it's an arrogant, condescending attitude to have. And I had an encounter with this person I mentioned before. They're one of the most self-righteous people I know. They think they've discovered the truth, and all the rest of us just need to come along and hear what they have to say. And I am so done with that shit. I'm just done with it. I am just a man trying to make my way in the world. And in the end, I'll sing my own death song and go with a smile on my face, enjoying the last few moments of my life, because I know at that moment it's going to be over for good. I want to thank you again, all of you, for stopping by at my channel. I appreciate you coming by. Once again, welcome again if this is your first time. You're free to like, subscribe, comment below. The only thing I don't tolerate is name calling. Ad hominem attacks are not welcome here. You're free to engage in all the other logical fallacies you like, but also realize that other people can point them out to you. Just don't call people names. Just want to thank all of you for coming by once again, and I appreciate any of you that have subscribed to the channel. This is, once again, a Friday video where I've addressed some of the comments. In the meantime, I thank you for stopping by again, and hopefully someday I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Rabyd, the Rabid Atheist, signing off, wishing you a good day.